I never imagined that the moment my daughter came into money, the first thing she'd do would be to toss me aside like I was worthless. But that night, as rain soaked through my sweater and the glare from her security lights stung my swollen eyes, it wasn't the storm that broke me. It was her voice, sharp, cold, cutting through the night like a shard of glass. "You're never seeing a cent of my money, you old witch." My suitcase hit the pavement right as she said it, bursting open like a balloon under pressure. Clothes I'd just folded that afternoon spilled across her immaculate driveway, underwear, socks, and old blouse I used to wear while babysitting her children. My toothbrush rolled into the gutter like even it knew I didn't belong anymore. She didn't flinch. Her new boyfriend, barely older than her eldest son, stood behind her, arms folded, smirking like he'd just claimed a trophy. Behind them, the mansion still wore its real estate ribbons. She hadn't even taken the sold sign down yet. I stood there. No yelling, no pleading, just silence. The rain plastered my hair to my scalp, streaking mascara through the creases in my face. But I didn't move. Thankfully, her kids weren't there. They didn't see their grandmother tossed out like an old rag. "You're a parasite," she shouted. "I worked for this. You don't get to sponge off me just because you're old. Worked for it." My jaw clenched, but I stayed silent. Not yet. Not when I still held the truth. She hadn't even tried to hide it. 10 days earlier, she'd hit the jackpot, 10 million in lottery winnings, and just like that, I became excess baggage. She used to say that if we ever struck it rich, we'd travel together, buy a duplex so I could have my own space but still be close for the kids. She told her friends I was her anchor, but the moment that check cleared, she didn't even leave a blanket out for me. I crouched to pick up my socks from the pavement, one at a time. My fingers trembled from the cold, but I wouldn't let her see me cry. She stared at me with the same eyes I used to kiss goodnight. Now, they were cold, lifeless. "Leave my property, or I'm calling the police," she said. "You have no right to be here. No right." Those words stuck behind my ribs like a stone. I wanted to shout back, "I paid your rent for years. I raised your children while you hopped from job to job. I gave up my retirement savings so you could start fresh again and again." But I didn't. Not yet. Because I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. So I grabbed my suitcase and took a step back. The rain mixed with the dirt on my shoes, turning everything to sludge. She thought I'd come crawling back, tail between my legs, grateful for crumbs. But she made one mistake. One tiny oversight that would change everything. She never checked the name on the lottery ticket. A few weeks earlier, we'd still been a team, or so I told myself. I was cooking dinner, folding laundry, helping with the bills out of my pension. She was between jobs again, something temporary while she figured things out. I never asked too many questions. I just did what I always did, held the line for both of us. That little split-level house with the cracked tile and the chipped banister was noisy and messy, cartoons blaring too loud. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. We had this ritual, Jenna and I. Whenever life got too heavy, too bleak, we'd swing by the gas station and each buy a lottery ticket. Our little shared dream. "Can you imagine?" she'd say, holding up her ticket like a golden passport. 10 million. No more ramen. No more debt collectors. I'd laugh and say something like, "Maybe I'll finally get that porch swing I keep talking about." We never expected to win. That wasn't the point. It was about hope, hope tucked into $2 slips. A way to dream without consequences. Some weeks we forgot. Other times, we'd come home and line them up on the table, picking our favorite numbers. She always chose birthdays. I like to pick random ones just to tempt fate. "If I win," she'd say with a grin, "we split it." "I've got you, Mom." She always said that. "I've got you." And I believed her. God help me. I believed her. Even when she skipped her share of the water bill. Even when she rolled her eyes when I asked her to tidy the living room before the boys came home. Even when she left me with the kids while she went to interviews that always somehow ended at bars. She had her moods, but I made excuses. "She's tired. She's doing her best. She doesn't mean it." That's what mothers do. We absorb the hits. We carry the weight they don't even know we're holding. But something shifted that week. She started pulling away, jumping whenever her phone rang, snapping at the kids, whispering behind closed doors. I figured maybe she was depressed again, or just overwhelmed. I didn't push. Then Thursday came. We were watching TV, a local news segment about a winning lottery ticket, sold just down the street. Same gas station we always went to. Someone in the neighborhood just became a millionaire, the anchor said. She shifted on the couch. Didn't smile. You ever buy from there? She asked casual. Yeah, I said. Picked one up Monday. With the groceries. Why? She shrugged. Just curious. Didn't even look at me. The next morning, the ticket was gone. Not in the drawer. Not behind the magnets. Not on the fridge. I checked everywhere. My heart dropped further with each cabinet I opened. I didn't ask her. I didn't want to believe it. We always bought them together. She promised if we won, we'd split it, but promises made in comfort don't always survive opportunity. That lottery ticket wasn't just a fantasy. It wasn't a joke. It was mine, and I remembered buying it more clearly than I remembered what I had for breakfast that day. I was standing in line behind a man shouting into his phone, furious about some botched deal. I just wanted to grab milk, maybe gum, and head home. But something tugged at me, maybe boredom, maybe fate. The clerk smiled when I reached the counter. Want a ticket? He asked. I almost said no, but instead, I heard myself say, yeah, sure. Quick pick. It cost me $2. I still had the receipt in my wallet. I pinned the ticket to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a smiley face. A stupid, cheerful little thing holding up a future I didn't know I was about to lose. When I got home, Jenna was in one of her moods, talking fast, pacing the kitchen, ranting about some recruiter who ghosted her. I didn't interrupt. I never did. I just nodded, quietly placed a warm cup of tea in front of her, and brought out the leftover pie. I bought a ticket, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Maybe we'll finally get out of this old place. She didn't laugh, didn't even smile, just muttered, yeah, that'd be something. While scrolling through her phone, I pinned the ticket on the fridge and forgot about it. She didn't. That night, she made dinner, something she almost never did. She even opened a bottle of wine like we were celebrating something, though she didn't say what. She kissed me goodnight. The next morning, the ticket was gone. The magnet remained just that silly smiley face magnet, a hollow grin staring back at me every time I opened the fridge for milk. She never mentioned it, and I didn't ask, because I was clinging to one final shred of hope that there was still goodness in her. But that was before she started coming home with new shoes, whispering on the phone behind closed doors, pacing the hallway in the middle of the night. That was before she slammed the bedroom door in my face and told me she needed space to think. I stayed quiet. I held on. I hoped, until I couldn't anymore. A few days later, she stood in the middle of the my living room, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. You're not going to believe this, she said, and held up a check. $10 million. I won. She beamed, her voice trembling with excitement. I actually freaking won. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked at her, and that's when I knew with absolute certainty she was lying, because Jenna never bought tickets. She never carried cash. She loathed waiting in line, couldn't stand chit-chat with cashiers, but suddenly, she had the winning numbers. I forced a smile. Wow, that's amazing. She hugged me tightly. I'm finally getting us out of here, she said. We're going to live the life we've always dreamed of. But I already knew that we had an expiration date, and it was approaching faster than I wanted to admit, because not once did she look at me like she meant it, and deep in my gut, I could feel the truth pressing in. She took my ticket, and she had no idea what she had truly stolen. 3 days later, she was gone. No goodbye. No note, just a missing toothbrush, a half-empty closet, and silence where her car used to be. I would have thought she was out on errands if not for the neighbor. Hey, Mr. Frank called from the other side of the fence, a cigarette dangling from his fingers. Saw the moving truck out front around 5 this morning. Thought you were heading out. I blinked. Moving truck? Yeah, U-Haul. 2 guys. Loading boxes. She was giving orders in a bathrobe and heels. My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard a thing. I'd been up since 4 a.m. with my bad hip and even worse thoughts. And somehow, she'd slipped out while I was in the backyard pulling weeds. She hadn't just left, she escaped, and that word clung to me like mildew. Escaped, like I was something to run from, a burden she'd finally shaken off. I checked the kitchen. Her mug was gone, the one I gave her when she graduated, the one that said, "Strong women raise strong daughters." It used to sit next to mine every morning. Now, it was just me and the magnet. I walked over to the fridge, placed my hand flat against its cold white surface, and stared at the spot where that ticket used to be. This wasn't paranoia anymore. It wasn't some lingering doubt. She had taken my ticket, and now she was gone. I called her once, just once. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't plead. I'd spent too many years hoping she'd choose me over convenience. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the chair she always used to flop into after a long day, complaining about how unfair life was. Unfair. That word echoed in my head like an insult. I thought of the times I held her hand through labor, the debt I paid off when she lost her second job, the trip I canceled to see a dying friend so I could watch her kids while she found herself in Arizona for 3 weeks. And now, she was living in a mansion funded by money that should have been mine, bought with a lottery ticket she stole right off my fridge. She called it a blessing, a miracle, but she forgot one small detail: the name. She never flipped the ticket over, never checked the signature, and that tiny act of arrogance, that would be her undoing. I wasn't the woman who used to wipe her tears and tell her everything would be all right. No. I was the woman who signed that ticket, and I was done being silent. She was gone, but not out of sight, not to me, because Jenna couldn't help herself. She paraded her win like a badge of honor, plastering it all over Facebook and Instagram, even tagging the local news. From broke single mom to millionaire queen, she wrote, posing on the steps of a marble white mansion, drink in hand, legs crossed like she'd always belonged there. Her smile was wide, but I knew it well. That wasn't happiness, that was smugness. And the people around her? Cousins she hadn't spoken to in years, old high school friends who used to mock her behind her back. Suddenly, they were all family again, and me, gone, erased from the story. No, thank you, Mom. No, we did it, not even a passing mention of the house we used to share, the home where I raised her, where I helped her raise her children, where I scrubbed her messes and patched her back together when she was falling apart. She cut me out like I was a flaw in her polished new life, but I didn't scream, I didn't post, I didn't say a word, I just watched, because in her pride, she forgot one thing: I was still her mother, and mothers notice. I watched her status change from looking for work to private investor. I saw her tag a luxury real estate agent with the caption starting fresh. I saw boomerangs of champagne glasses on rooftops while my grandsons played in the background alone. That image chilled me to the core. She had traded stability for spectacle. And me? She swapped me out for a nanny who couldn't even spell the boys' names correctly in photo captions. But the worst part wasn't what she posted. It was what she stopped posting. The boys less and less. First a photo a week, then nothing. And I knew exactly what that meant. She was distracted, self-absorbed, chasing a fantasy she hadn't built. Not really. Because deep down, she hadn't earned that money. She stole it. And whether she realized it or not, she was constructing her dream life on unstable ground. I didn't confront her, at least not yet. I needed more than anger. I needed evidence. So I opened a drawer I hadn't touched in years and pulled out the old folder full of receipts, grocery lists, and yes, the photo I'd taken of the ticket the day I bought it, just for fun. There. It was blurry, off-center, but readable. Date, time, location, numbers, all mine. I printed it out and tucked it into my coat pocket. She might have walked out on me, but I was about to step right into the truth, and this time, I wouldn't be the one written out of the story. I didn't go to her. Not yet. I went to the gas station instead, the same one where I'd picked up milk, bought canned beans, and paid utility bills without fail for the past 15 years. The man behind the counter, Ben, recognized me immediately. "Miss Margot," he greeted. Been a while. I forced a smile, tight on my face. "Ben, I need to ask you something. Do you remember the lottery ticket I bought last Monday, the one I joked about? Said it might change my life?" He chuckled. "Yeah, I remember." Said, "You were finally gonna buy that beach house and leave your daughter to do the dishes." I didn't laugh with him. I leaned in, lowered my voice. "That ticket's missing, and someone else is claiming they bought it." His expression fell. "Wait, you mean that ticket?" "I signed the back," I said. "I always do." He blinked. "Well, damn. I can pull the security footage if you want." My knees nearly buckled. "Could you?" 10 minutes later, I was in the back room. The screen was small, the footage grainy, but there I was, my coat, my bag, my gray roots peeking out beneath my knit hat. I handed over a bill, took the ticket, then reached into my purse, pulled out a pen, and signed it, my name. I covered my mouth. "Ben, would you mind if I recorded this?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Go ahead." I took out my phone and hit record. No words, just proof. Later that day, I called the state lottery office. I told them everything, when and where I bought the ticket, that I had surveillance footage, a photo of the numbers, and most importantly, my name on the back. The woman on the line paused after I finished. "We'll need you to send all of that over," she said. "We'll open an investigation. If your name matches the footage, the payout can be legally challenged." I didn't flinch. I didn't celebrate. I just asked one thing. "Can you freeze the winnings once the investigation is officially opened?" "Yes," she replied. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat at the same old kitchen table, yes, the one she used to mock for being outdated, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself exhale. I didn't text her. I didn't call. Let her keep toasting herself with champagne in that rented mansion. Let her keep pretending she earned it, while she was spending on Versace and burning every bridge behind her. I was letting the truth do what love never could: hold her accountable. And the best part, she had no idea what was coming. Not yet. But she would. When the money stopped flowing, when the followers disappeared, and the silence started spreading like mold, she'd realize that the woman she called a leech was the one holding the pen all along. The first thing Jenna did with the money after vanishing, after erasing me, was buy attention. Not literally, but that's exactly what it looked like. Overnight, her profile turned into a showroom. Designer purses, poolside selfies, bragging about spending $10,000 on a single shopping spree like it was nothing. And then it got worse. She started posting about me. At first, it was subtle. A post about cutting out toxic people, then a group photo with old friends, champagne, flutes raised, captioned, "Finally free from leeches. Surround yourself with winners, not beggars." I read it twice. Then I scrolled through the comments. Laughter, applause, heart emojis. "Her friend Tasha, we always knew she was dragging you down." Someone else, "Good riddance to the moocher. Live your life, girl." I kept scrolling. Dozens of them, each one a punch to the gut. They didn't know me. They didn't know the woman who skipped meals so her daughter could eat seconds. The one who co-signed the lease when Jenna's credit tanked. The one who stayed up all night to clean vomit from the carpet while her mother went clubbing to clear her head. They didn't know because Jenna never told them. She deleted me with a few taps of her phone. Let strangers rewrite the narrative. I didn't respond. Not once. I screenshot every post, every comment, every tag, and then I printed them. Because while she was out buying status, I was sitting across from a lawyer named Dana, recommended by a retired neighbor who'd gone through something similar. Dana wore glasses, spoke with care, asked no unnecessary questions. She read my file, every receipt, every photo, every frame of the security footage, and when she finished, she looked at me and said, "This isn't just fraud. This is theft, and you have a case." I nodded. "I don't want revenge. You want what's yours," she said. "Rightfully, yes." We submitted everything that afternoon. By the end of the week, the lottery office confirmed the investigation was active. The payout frozen, public announcement delayed. Still, I didn't say a word to Jenna, because what was the point in warning someone who was already dancing on a crumbling bridge? Let her keep posting. Let her mock me louder. The more she bragged, the more she revealed, and she had no clue who was watching. Not anymore. She kept at it, bolder, crueler, more self-righteous with every post. But I didn't reply. Not a text, not a call, not a hint. Because when someone is twirling in the center of a storm they don't see coming, you don't shout at them to stop. You just wait. While she posted captions like "Real queens don't ask permission," I was sitting with Dana again, signing a sworn affidavit, date, location, purchase details all confirmed. While Jenna uploaded videos flaunting her independence, I quietly forwarded bank statements showing my previous balances before the theft, proof of who I was, who she took from, and still, I said nothing. My silence became my greatest defense, because where I left space, she filled it with noise, arrogance, recklessness, and that noise exposed everything: her ego, her impulsivity, her absolute disregard for anyone but herself. She even started reaching out to long-lost relatives. "We should catch up," she said, offering them gifts, vacations, attention. People who hadn't remembered her birthday in years were suddenly lining up to praise her, and I watched. Not with envy, not even sadness, with clarity. She was repeating the same cycle, believing that love meant control, that money bought absolution, that power erased the past. But what Jenna didn't realize was that while she turned her windfall into a fantasy, I was building something real, a case, a future. A foundation she no longer had any claim to. Dana called me late one evening. "The Lottery Commission has officially recognized your claim," she said. "All accounts linked to the winning ticket are frozen. The payout is on indefinite hold." I sat there, tea in hand, those words echoing like a hymn. "Do I need to tell her?" I asked. Dana gave a quiet laugh. "No, the banks will handle that." And they did. 2 days later, Jenna's social media went silent. No new photos, no rooftop drinks, no designer labels, just nothing. I pictured her waking up, reaching for her card only to see declined flash across the screen, trying again, hands shaking, voice rising, and then panic. But I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about dignity mine. I had done everything right. I had loved Jenna beyond my limits, sacrificed beyond reason, given without taking. And in return, she exiled me and mocked me. But now, she was finally getting what she'd given me. Nothing. The state confirmed everything, every timestamp, every frame of footage, every grainy second that captured me receiving that ticket, sliding it into my purse, signing my name in a shaky hand. It was mine. They didn't hesitate. "This will move forward to public announcement," the official told me. "We'll be issuing a correction and preparing a press release for the rightful claimant." Rightful claimant. She said it like it was a title, a badge, a role I had earned just by telling the truth. For the first time in months, I felt seen, not as a mother, not as a burden, not as a doormat, but as a woman who had clung to the truth, even when it nearly broke her. I hung up the phone and looked around my home. No chandeliers, no marble staircases, no ocean views, just the kettle, the worn curtains, the chipped paint by the sink, and yet it felt more like home than any mansion ever could. I didn't rush to tell anyone, not even the neighbor who once dropped off a casserole and whispered, "You deserve better than this." Because this wasn't about proving something to them. It was about proving something to myself, that I wasn't losing my mind, that I hadn't imagined the shift in her the moment she stopped seeing me as family and started seeing me as a threat. She thought I'd stay silent forever, that I was too old, too tired, too ashamed to fight back, but she forgot something important. Silence doesn't mean surrender, and dignity never asks permission. That night, I looked out the window at a sky so dark, it seemed endless. And I allowed myself to feel something I hadn't in a long time, peace, because I hadn't just reclaimed my ticket, I had reclaimed myself, the version of me that knew her value, that knew when to give, and when to stop giving, that no longer measured love in how much suffering she could endure. The press conference was scheduled for the following week, minimal notice, just enough to prepare. I didn't tell Jenna. Why would I? She never told me when she was leaving, never told me she was moving, never gave me the courtesy of a word when she walked out with $10 million and told the world it was hers. She never looked back, and I wasn't going to warn her to look ahead. Let her find out like I did alone. Stunned, standing in the center of a life that wasn't truly hers, the truth was coming, and it had my name on it. The night before the press conference, I couldn't sleep, not from anxiety, not from fear, from memory. I lay on my old twin bed, the ceiling fan spinning quietly above me, and watched the past flicker across my mind like an old movie no one asked to see. Her first steps, her first heartbreak. That night she crawled into bed at 15, mascara smudged, whispering, "Why does everyone leave?" I held her until the sun came up. I never thought she'd be the one to leave me behind. I truly believed I was building a life where sacrifice meant something, that if I just kept showing up, kept making room for her chaos, one day she'd turn and say, "Mom, I see you." But she never did, and for a long time, that crushed me, until I realized something important. Lying there in the quiet, I did everything I could, and she made a choice. People love to quote, "Blood is thicker than water," but they never finish it. The full saying is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb," which means the bonds we choose mean more than the ones we're born into. Jenna chose money over memory, ego over honesty, image over me, and I was done blaming myself for that. I thought of the nights I tucked her in without sleep, paid her rent with money meant for my medicine, skipped doctor's appointments, social plans, even my own small dreams, because hers always took precedence. But now I didn't feel hollow. I felt free, like everything she had taken had been replaced with something far better, clarity. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror, pulled my hair back, put on the blouse I used to reserve for holidays, It wasn't designer. It wasn't expensive. But it was mine. The drive to the press conference was quiet. Dana sat beside me, briefcase on her lap, calm as ever. She didn't ask if I was ready. She knew I was. The auditorium was modest. A podium, a banner, a handful of local reporters murmuring among themselves. Then they called my name. Today we're here to clarify the rightful ownership of the $10 million winning ticket purchased at Gas and Go on Route 18. Cameras flashed. I stepped forward. My voice didn't shake. My name is Margot Delaney, I said. I bought that ticket. I signed it. And I am the rightful winner. It was done. In 3 minutes. But the silence afterward stretched for eternity. Reporters tried to ask more. I smiled politely and stepped aside. I didn't owe anyone explanations. The truth had already spoken. And somewhere out there, Jenna's carefully curated life was beginning to crack. I didn't need to see it. I knew exactly what it would look like. When people realized the throne she sat on was built from stolen stone, I didn't post a single thing after the conference. No hashtags. No humble brags. I didn't even tell anyone outside of legal. But somehow, she still hadn't heard, because the very next morning, she posted a story from a rooftop bar wearing new pearls, cocktail in hand, acting like the world was still. Hers, manifesting more millions. The caption read. I stared at my phone, lips pressed into a line. She had no clue. No clue that her accounts were frozen. No clue the investigation had ended. No clue that her name was about to be wiped off every inch of the prize she'd claimed as her own, and I didn't owe her the courtesy of a warning. Let her enjoy one final sunset over a skyline she didn't own. I'd chosen the press conference time for a reason: minimal attention, a discreet venue, just enough publicity to make it official. But not enough to tip her off. She didn't know, because I hadn't told her, and she hadn't thought to check. She assumed I wasn't capable of anything but silence. That was her mistake. She forgot who raised her, the woman who sat through parent-teacher conferences with steel in her spine, who picked up extra shifts to afford braces, who sewed a prom dress from clearance rack fabric because she couldn't afford the one Jenna wanted, the woman who stayed up through breakups, through panic attacks, through postpartum nights. I had always been her foundation, until she broke it. So now, I stood alone, not diminished, just sharper. I didn't need the world to know what she had done. I just needed the law to know, and now they did. That afternoon, Dana sent the updated paperwork. The state had officially reassigned all rights to the winning ticket. The payment would be reissued under my name. The previous claimant, Jenna, was no longer legally entitled to a cent. I sat at the kitchen table, holding the papers in my hands, and exhaled. She still hadn't called, still hadn't noticed, and truthfully, a part of me didn't want her to, because the longer she stayed in the dark, the harder the fall would be. People like her never see the truth coming until it's already here, until the lights flicker off, the apps say access denied, the phones stop ringing, and the ones she tried to impress with $10 million vanish without a second glance. And when that happened, I wouldn't raise my voice. I wouldn't slam the door. I would simply look her in the eyes and do the one thing she never saw coming: walk away. When the news finally reached her, the clock on my wall read 12:18 p.m. Then, my phone exploded, buzzing with urgency like a swarm of angry hornets sealed in a jar. Every vibration rattled the worn oak of my kitchen table, a relentless reminder of a world demanding answers. But I ignored them all, each ring, each chime, each frantic ping, because I knew exactly who I was waiting for. And it wasn't the neighbors, wasn't the media, wasn't even the curious voices fishing for drama. No, I sat still, hands folded in my lap, the weight of years pressing against my chest like a smooth stone carved by a river's long memory. I waited. At exactly 1:43 p.m., I finally answered. Her name lit up on the screen, a name that once felt like home, but now left a bitter taste in my mouth, like burnt coffee sitting too long on the burner. I picked up. No greeting. No, are you okay? Just her voice, ripping through the line, sharp and frantic. A scream drenched in panic, the kind that only comes when a perfectly constructed lie starts crumbling in public view. You stole my life, she shrieked, her words cracked with fear, splintered with rage, unraveling like a frayed thread on a stage too bright to hide in. I said nothing. I let the storm pass through the phone, let her voice thunder and twist. I could picture her pacing, clawing at her own skin, her world collapsing like scaffolding in a strong wind. You think you're clever, don't you? She hissed. You think this is justice? You humiliated me in front of everyone. What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to face them? Her voice trembled on the edge, and I let the silence grow just long enough to make her squirm. Then I spoke steady, even, a blade sharpened by years of biting my tongue. You could start, I said, by saying thank you. She went silent. I heard her breath catch one sharp, startled inhale. For what? She snapped, her voice cracking like thin ice. I leaned back in my chair. The groan of old wood grounded me as I listed the truth. For the 5 years I kept this house running, while you bounced between jobs. For the 3 times I paid off your credit card without a word even when I couldn't pay my own bills. For raising your children while you chased distractions in bars and borrowed dreams. For not calling the police the night you slipped out the door with a lottery ticket that didn't belong to you. Your hands shaking, but your eyes, cold. You're lying, she fired back, but her voice wavered. The crack in her armor was there. No, I said, cutting through her denial like glass. I have proof. My name on the ticket, verified footage from the store. I could have kept it quiet, fixed it in silence like I always did. But you made sure the whole world heard your version, so I made sure they heard mine. That's when she broke, not with regret, not with softness, but with the choking sobs of someone watching her kingdom of lies go up in smoke. You've ruined everything, she cried, her voice raw, thick with a kind of fear she didn't know how to mask anymore. No, I said, as calm as a snow-covered morning. You ruined it. I just stopped pretending it was still a palace. She gasped again. I could almost see her scrambling, reaching for anything to hold on to. You don't get it, she said. I bought things, the house, the car, the clothes. It's all gone now, isn't it? You've taken everything. I didn't blink. I've already donated half of it, I replied, each word deliberate. To women's shelters, to single mothers who fight for their kids instead of abandoning them, to women who don't treat their own mothers like trash left on the sidewalk. Her breath caught sharp, like a slap. You're insane, she whispered, but there was no fight left, just the echo of someone defeated. No, I said softly, I'm done being your fallback, your safety net, your silent partner in a life you didn't earn. Then I hung up. And a warning. No pause. Just the click of a call finally ended. Like a door that should have closed years ago, the silence afterward felt different. Not heavy, not oppressive, but light, like coming up for air. After holding your breath too long, for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a mother cleaning up chaos that wasn't hers. I didn't feel like a woman carrying weight no one acknowledged. I felt like me, whole, free, the actual winner of a game I never agreed to play. As I set the phone down, something stirred in my chest, not guilt, not sadness, just one quiet question. What now? What do you do when you've burned the bridge you spent your life building? I glanced at the clock. There was still plenty of daylight left. The world outside hadn't stopped turning. It was waiting to see what I'd do with my peace. The sun had barely crept over the horizon the next morning when everything finally collapsed beneath Jenna's feet. By dawn, every one of her accounts had been locked. The banks had moved quickly. Once the fraud claim was confirmed, impersonal, efficient, merciless, her glass mansion, the one she used to show off on every story, was now under legal scrutiny. The title? Tangled in enough paperwork to strangle her dreams. The car? That sleek convertible she used to flaunt like a crown? Leased under a name she no longer had any right to claim. Even the jewelry, the rings, the chains, the handbags she'd flaunted like medals? Not a single receipt in her name. The life she built on lies was collapsing thread by thread, and I didn't lift a finger. That's the thing about theft. It's a house of cards. And once truth gusts through, it topples on its own. I didn't need to be there to see it. I heard it from our cousin Leah, a cousin Jenna hadn't spoken to in years, not until she needed to rebuild a crowd. Leah called me, her voice laced with disbelief and something close to dark satisfaction. She told me Jenna had marched into a boutique downtown, still clinging to her former glamour. She'd tried to buy a silk scarf, one final act of vanity. She swiped her card, declined, tried another, declined again. Leah said the cashier kept smiling politely, but tighter each time. Jenna stormed out, screeching about system errors and lawsuits, her voice bouncing off boutique walls like a tantrum in a cathedral. But it wasn't a glitch. It was a reckoning, the kind she never thought would reach her, because she never believed anyone, especially me, would have the strength to say, enough. She forgot who I was, the mother who braided her hair before interviews and whispered courage into her doubts. She forgot I was capable, too. I don't know exactly when it sank in for her. Maybe it was the letter from the lottery commission, official and final. Maybe it was the eviction notice taped to her front door, its reflection in the mansion's glass staring right back at her. Maybe it was when she sat across from her lawyer, hands shaking, trying to explain how her own mother could do this, and the lawyer calmly slid a folder toward her surveillance footage, receipts, my signature bold across the winning ticket, brick by brick. It closed in. The irony bit like frost. She thought money made her invincible. She thought she was the queen of a kingdom built on theft. But it wasn't the money that broke her. It was the truth, unrelenting, unforgiving, and finally set free. 3 days after everything collapsed, she appeared. No call, no text, just frantic knocking at my door, as if the world still orbited around her. I didn't answer right away. I stood at the window and watched. Her hair was messy, makeup smudged. She wore a stretch sweatshirt that didn't fit the image she once curated in silk and captions about leaving broke energy behind. She wasn't crying. She was furious. I cracked the door open an inch, just enough to meet her eyes. "Mom," she gasped, breathless. "We need to talk." I didn't move. "There's nothing left to say. You can't do this to me," she barked. "You never asked," I said calmly. "You never even checked. You just took it and ran." Her lips tightened. "Okay, fine. Maybe I messed up. But freezing my accounts, taking it all back, that's not justice. That's revenge." I tilted my head. "You called me a witch, a leech. You made a spectacle out of my pain. You humiliated me online like it was entertainment." She opened her mouth to reply, but no excuse came. So I waited. She shifted on the step, desperate, voice turning sharper. "You've made your point. You've got your money. Your name's on the check. What more do you want? Can we just go back to normal?" I considered that what normal used to mean. It meant me holding everything together, paying, cleaning, fixing, while she built a fantasy with my bones. I looked her in the eyes. "Goodbye." Her jaw dropped. "What?" I didn't say it again. I simply began to close the door. "You'll regret this," she shouted. "You think that money's going to make you happy? You think you can buy peace?" I paused, and for the first time I smiled. "No, but I bought you out of my life." Then I shut the door. No slam, just quiet.